I was thrown into a post-apocalyptic survival game where only one person could emerge as the final winner. The moment we arrived, players rushed forward, each scrambling to choose powerful abilities, afraid that even a second of hesitation would cost them everything. Some picked combat skills, others chose healing, teleportation, or destructive powers. But while everyone else fought over abilities, I made a completely different choice. I selected infinite wealth. Naturally, everyone laughed at me. In their eyes, money was the most useless thing before the apocalypse. But what they didn't understand was this: zombies were never the real danger. The true threat was humans who possessed abilities. A massive interface appeared before us, like a palace display in the game world, showing that there were exactly 300 players in total. Every single one of us had already died in the real world. The only way to be reborn was to survive until the very end of this apocalyptic game. I casually scanned the shelves of items available. Almost everything was some kind of supernatural ability. Around me, players were frantically grabbing powers, terrified that what they wanted would be taken first. Abilities like blade control, teleportation, healing, and others were disappearing rapidly. I kept scrolling until I reached the very last page. At the bottom shelf, sitting alone, was a single gold coin. On it were engraved the words, "Infinite Wealth." Without hesitation, I took it. At the same time, the people who had died with me on that bus were also transported into this world. Among them was our class monitor, Kui Ingrui. He had chosen mind control. When he turned around and saw me picking up the gold coin, his expression froze for a moment. Before I could explain anything, his attention shifted away. Not far from him stood Lu Ruyan. She had chosen an ability called Love Acquisition. Soon, all the items were taken. The system's voice echoed once again, and after hearing its announcement, everyone's expressions grew complicated. Because now, one truth became clear. In this game, there were no allies. Everyone was an enemy. I didn't waste a single second. I immediately left the area and began preparing my survival plan for the apocalypse. Opening the world map, I searched tirelessly, scanning location after location, until finally, I found the perfect place: a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The island was just the right size. Isolated, geologically stable, and it even had a naturally flat area that was ideal for building an airport. It was perfect. So I acted immediately. I spent money without hesitation and bought the island outright. Then I gave it a name, Future Island. To avoid suspicion, I publicly claimed I was developing a luxury tourism project. I purchased 10 massive cruise ships and signed construction agreements with NPC contractors. At the same time, I signed strict confidentiality agreements with the executives. None of them knew the true location of Future Island. Construction began immediately. Workers labored day and night without rest. To prevent the island from being tracked, I had already prepared signal jammers in advance and confiscated all the workers' phones. On the surface, I built multiple fortress structures, but all of them were just decoys. Even satellites wouldn't be able to detect their true purpose. Because the real stronghold was underground. The underground fortress I built was designed to withstand nuclear strikes and biological attacks. Even if some kind of ultimate evolved zombie appeared, it would still be unable to break through the 5-meter-thick steel walls. To solve the energy problem, I installed multiple power systems across the island: wind energy, tidal energy, and even nuclear power. At the same time, I stockpiled 100,000 oxygen tanks, just in case everything went wrong. The underground bunker was divided into 12 independent compartments. Even if one or two sections failed, the rest would continue functioning normally. Each compartment had a specific purpose. 3 of them were equipped with the latest automated farming systems, allowing me to grow vegetables, raise fish, and breed chickens entirely on my own. 2 compartments were dedicated to long-term storage, filled with enough food, water, and medical supplies to last me for 10 years. The remaining compartments contained everything needed for a comfortable life: bedrooms, kitchens, dining areas, entertainment rooms, a gym, bathrooms, and even a fully equipped medical facility. Whenever the NPC supervisors started to question the scale of my project, I simply threw money at them. Instantly, they stopped asking questions. As long as the money kept flowing, they worked even harder. And for me, spending money became effortless. No matter how much I used, it never ran out. I then traveled to the United States and purchased a massive stockpile of heavy weaponry. This included mobile combat robots and lightweight tactical machines. Because I was willing to pay enough, I even managed to acquire 2 nuclear warheads through unofficial channels. In a hidden bay, I secretly stored a nuclear submarine and an aircraft. There was a direct underground passage connecting my fortress to that location, ensuring I could reach them at any time. To make sure I could actually use them, I hired 2 professional instructors. Every single day, I trained myself to operate both the submarine and the aircraft. And that was only the beginning of my preparation. To prevent any superpowered players from ever reaching the island, I pushed my defenses even further. I ordered artificial reefs to be constructed around the original island coordinates. Any large vessel that tried to approach would immediately run aground and sink. Beyond that, I installed an electrified perimeter around the island, turning the entire coastline into a deadly barrier. In the surrounding waters, I buried explosives and installed a wide-range radar system capable of detecting any approaching object. Anything that came too close would be immediately intercepted and destroyed. After all of this was completed, I personally sent away the last batch of NPC workers, ensuring no unnecessary witnesses remained. At that point, I was truly alone on the island. Using my wealth again, I purchased a space exploration technology company and gained control over 6,122 satellites orbiting the Earth. This guaranteed me complete and stable global surveillance at all times. Over the course of a year, I expanded even further. I acquired major global airlines and shipping companies. Then, in the final week before everything escalated, I issued a shocking order: every aircraft and ship under my control was to be destroyed. The entire world went into chaos. The richest man on Earth had just eliminated all long-distance transportation overnight. NPCs thought I had gone insane. But the players understood something different. This mad billionaire was not an NPC. He was one of them. A competitor. A message suddenly appeared in the player chat system: "That global tycoon, is it you?" I didn't respond. A week later, the final phase of the game arrived. The remaining 300 players had their numbers displayed publicly. I was player 99, Kui Ingrui was 100, and Lu Ruyan was 101. A system announcement echoed across the world. Final phase initiated. The game will continue until only one player remains. No one expected what came next. The apocalypse did not arrive through zombies or monsters, but as a global flood. Torrential rain began from the north and swept across the entire planet. It didn't stop. It became a catastrophic deluge, resembling the ancient myths of a world-ending flood. Future Island was also affected, but due to its small size and isolated geography, the storm clouds passed after just 2 days. The so-called super-powered players were furious. They shouted at the system, asking what use their abilities were in a disaster like this. Some even accused the system of cheating, but the system gave no answer that satisfied them. Meanwhile, I calmly continued my life on the island. Elsewhere in the world, chaos erupted. With infrastructure destroyed, people who had no resources were forced to rely on their abilities just to survive. Many had spent the past year training and struggling to gather supplies, but it was never enough. A few who had used their abilities for crime managed to secure villas and underground shelters, but even those were quickly flooded and destroyed. I, however, sat comfortably eating hot pot while watching live broadcasts of the outside world. On one stream, a content creator was hiding behind curtains, secretly filming a nearby building. Inside, a fire-powered ability user was forcibly breaking into homes and stealing supplies. The streamer kept narrating in shock: this wasn't special effects, it was real. A former security guard was now burning through metal doors with flames, already robbing his 10th house. Soon, the situation escalated further. NPC law enforcement units arrived in armed rescue boats, surrounding the building. Gunfire erupted. Explosions followed. Glass shattered everywhere. The entire scene turned into a battlefield between guns and superpowers. Then, suddenly, a figure fell from the top floor and plunged directly into the floodwaters below. Moments later, that player's name on the system interface turned gray, meaning death. At the same time, Kui Ingrui contacted me again. "We should form an alliance," he wrote. "We are classmates, our numbers are close. We can survive until the end together. I have mind control, you have no abilities. I can help you eliminate other players." I didn't reply. He kept insisting, unaware that I had already decided his fate long ago. In his mind, if only 2 players remained, he would simply use mind control to eliminate me and claim victory. But he never understood something critical. I was never someone he could control. As the flood continued for 3 months, civilization collapsed further. Power grids failed. Food ran out. NPC society broke down completely. Riots began. Looting, arson, and violence spread everywhere. Players mixed among the chaos, trying to survive, but their abilities eventually exposed them. The authorities issued a global arrest order for all ability users, sending them to research facilities for capture and experimentation. But on Future Island, none of this mattered. I lived peacefully walking under the sun, checking crops, inspecting submarines and aircraft. To me, it was like a private paradise, isolated from the end of the world. Until betrayal came. An anonymous message appeared in the global system. Player 99 is the richest person in the world. He must have built shelters. Find him, and you will survive. Instantly, the entire system exploded with activity. Players who had long been silent suddenly became obsessed with me. Some demanded I share my shelters. Others called for my death. The world turned its attention entirely toward player 99. And then, I finally responded. I opened the world chat and calmly typed a message that instantly froze the entire system for a moment. "Everyone, stop arguing. I am player 99. The reaction was immediate. The chat exploded. Rage, disbelief, greed, everything mixed together in seconds. People accused me of hoarding survival chances, of watching them suffer from a position of luxury. Some demanded I be killed on sight. Others begged for cooperation. I continued typing without rush. If you want shelters, I can provide them. That single line changed everything. But I didn't stop there. I've built shelters in only 4 regions: China, the United States, Germany, and Australia. Each shelter can only accommodate 20 people. I've marked their locations on the world map. The system chat went silent for half a second, then erupted again. There were over 200 players left. Clearly, it was impossible for everyone to be saved. So I added the final part. First come, first served. I'll give you the access codes. But don't waste time hunting me down, because if you do, no one gets anything. Almost instantly, players began moving. Within hours, some had already reached the shelters. Many of them possessed movement-based abilities, allowing them to travel faster than normal humans. The shelters themselves were built on elevated terrain, completely untouched by the floods. When they opened the doors, it truly looked like paradise. Inside were fully stocked supplies, luxury food, clean water, medical resources, and comfortable living spaces. One player even began live streaming inside, laughing in disbelief at how well everything was prepared. Money really did create miracles in a ruined world. However, greed quickly returned. After only 12 people entered one shelter, they decided to lock the remaining players out. Resources were limited, they said. No more entry. The door was sealed. Outside, the remaining players went insane. They screamed, cursed, and begged. Some even tried breaking through the walls. Others used their abilities in desperation, but nothing worked. The structure was too strong. Then I spoke again. Wait, didn't I say each shelter could hold 20 people? There are still 8 more slots available. The crowd froze. Then I added the final instruction. There is a hidden entrance. Southeast corner. At the base of the wall, there's a carved brick. Turn it, and the passage opens. The moment that information was revealed, everything collapsed into chaos again. Players rushed toward the hidden mechanism. The carved brick turned. A concealed door slowly appeared. And the moment it did, the remaining survivors surged forward like a flood. No one trusted anyone anymore. Survival erased morality. A girl at the back of the crowd was too slow. In desperation, her arms mutated, countless vines burst out and lashed forward, tripping several players. Screams followed immediately. A blade user reacted instantly, cutting through the vines and then striking back, killing the girl on the spot. One after another, players fell. At that moment, it became obvious these abilities were never meant to fight zombies, they were meant for killing each other. The system screen kept updating rapidly as death counts rose. Blood filled the entrance area. The struggle for those last 8 spots turned into pure slaughter. Then silence. The shelter doors closed automatically. Inside, the selected players celebrated. Outside, bodies lay everywhere. But none of them knew what was coming next. I checked the time. Now, I said quietly. Inside the shelter network, explosives I had planted months earlier were triggered simultaneously. A massive chain explosion erupted across all 4 shelters. The system shook violently. 116 players were eliminated instantly. 91 remained alive. Sui Ingrui sent me a message shortly after. All players capable of reaching Future Island without aircraft are gone. I didn't respond, because that was never the point. I had spent an entire year preparing for this moment. Those shelters were never salvation. They were graves. Then the system rewarded me. A notification appeared in front of me, and I couldn't help but smile. Everything in this world was exactly as expected: survival of the fittest. Nothing more. Then the flood began to retreat. 4 months later, the water finally receded, revealing a devastated world underneath. The sun returned. Dry land appeared again. People thought the disaster was over, but they were wrong. A message came from Lu Ruyan. No zombies this time? You really believe that? She had survived by using her love acquisition ability, manipulating others into giving her resources and protection. When rescue teams arrived, she was the first to be saved every time. She lived comfortably, stealing survival chances from others while being treated like a victim. And she already knew something else. She knew I was player 99. That wasn't a coincidence. Because the next disaster had already begun. Across all continents, a zombie virus erupted. Since I had destroyed planes and ships early on, isolated regions like islands in Antarctica were cut off from early spread. But that only delayed the inevitable. Now, it was worse. New types of zombies appeared, some intelligent, some even capable of using abilities. And worse still, when zombies consumed ability users, they inherited their powers. Communication networks collapsed. Only radio remained. But I didn't need any of that. Because I had satellites. Thousands of them. I watched everything in real time from above. And then I saw it. The player count dropped again. 30 remained. It was New Year's Day. But no one celebrated. Except me. I sat alone, eating my New Year's meal while watching the final pre-apocalypse Spring Festival broadcast. For a moment, I felt something strange. Loneliness. Even though I had everything, I had nothing. I sent a photo of my meal to Kui Ingrui. Seconds later, he reposted it into the global chat. The reaction was instant chaos. But I didn't care anymore. Because I already knew everything. Every remaining player. Every ability. Every weakness. I had seen them all before the world even ended. And now, only 3 factions remained. The military, controlled by Kui Ingrui through mind control. The zombie horde, led by a growing zombie king. And the remaining scattered players, caught in between. And somewhere in all of this, I was still waiting for the final winner. After the collapse of the world into 3 major factions, everything entered a new phase of silent tension. The military faction had become one of the strongest forces, heavily armed and fortified beyond imagination, with Kui Ingrui using his mind control ability to secure absolute leadership. At the same time, the zombie faction had evolved far beyond anyone's expectations. A zombie king had emerged, one who could absorb the abilities of both superpowered humans and other zombies simply by killing them. With each battle, he became more intelligent, more dangerous, and closer to human behavior. He was no longer just a monster, he was evolving into something far worse. The remaining players were scattered across the world, weakening day by day. Only 26 of them still survived, each aligning themselves with one of the major forces just to stay alive. Among them, one player with gravity manipulation, number 128, stood out as one of the strongest. In direct combat, no one could defeat him. But even he understood something critical: strength alone meant nothing in a collapsing world like this. Then, the situation changed again. A new environmental disaster struck. An extreme cold wave swept across the entire planet. Even Future Island, my isolated paradise, was not spared. A massive blizzard hit without warning. The sky's electrical defenses collapsed under the weight of the storm. Wind turbines and tidal power systems were severely damaged. Only the backup nuclear power system underground continued functioning, barely keeping everything alive. At the same time, internal conflicts among surviving factions intensified. Resources were gone. Trust had vanished. Violence erupted everywhere. Superpowered players began dying one after another in meaningless battles. During this chaos, Lu Wuyan secretly sent me a message along with a photo of himself standing beside the Zombie King. The Zombie King had become disturbingly human-like, his body evolving with every ability he absorbed. Yet his pale skin and unnatural red eyes made him deeply unsettling to look at. The cold continued to spread. Even I could feel its effects on the island. Nature itself seemed broken in this world, as if even the rules of reality were no longer stable. At that point, I made contact with number 128. Through the world interface, I sent him a private message. His response came quickly. "What do you want? And why should I trust you?" I told him the truth. There was a substance, an antidote, that could completely eliminate zombies when sprayed on them. But alone, I could not use it effectively. Among all remaining players, he was the strongest. Only he had the ability to carry out the plan. I explained further. Humans were already at a disadvantage in this extreme cold. Zombies, however, were unaffected. The longer the situation dragged on, the higher the chances of human extinction. Even my massive stockpile of resources would eventually run out. And worse, the Zombie King, protected by Lu Ruyan, was becoming unstoppable. Without a proper countermeasure, no ability user could defeat him. So I proposed an alliance. "I have the antidote," I told him. "You have the power. We eliminate the zombies together." To prove my sincerity, I sent a mercenary team along with a batch of supplies and a sample of the antidote. Eventually, number 128 agreed. Because in his eyes, if only the two of us remained in the end, he could easily eliminate me. I was, after all, the weakest threat to him. That made my offer the safest option. On a snow-covered night, hundreds of drones lifted into the sky, each carrying antidote payloads toward the zombie territory. At that moment, the Zombie King was asleep, holding Lu Ruyan in his arms. Even in sleep, he remained alert, his instincts sharp enough to detect danger. But instead of reacting immediately, he gently covered Lu Ruyan with a blanket first, as if protecting her mattered more than his own survival. A fire burned quietly in the room, keeping them warm. Then, the attack began. The drones released massive amounts of antidote mixed with falling snow. It spread across the battlefield like a toxic storm, but this poison was for zombies only. The effect was immediate. Zombies screamed in agony as their bodies began to dissolve into blood and ash. The Zombie King awakened in fury. With a powerful leap, he destroyed multiple drones using energy blasts fired from his hands. At the same time, number 128 led a group of players into the battlefield. Activating his gravity manipulation, he forced the Zombie King down to the ground, pinning him with overwhelming force. Even the Zombie King struggled to move. But the battle was far from over. Hidden zombies erupted from the shadows, attacking the players and tearing through their defenses. Chaos spread instantly. Number 1. 128 intensified his power, causing nearby buildings to collapse under gravitational distortion. Massive debris crushed everything in sight, burying parts of the battlefield including the Zombie King himself. But then something unexpected happened. From the ruins, the Zombie King suddenly burst out, grabbing Lu Ruyan in the process and shielding her instinctively. At the same time, he released a strange blood-like binding force from his body, restraining number 128. For the first time, number 128 was shocked. He didn't expect such an ability. With a violent motion, the Zombie King shattered his opponent's body under pressure, breaking him apart completely. But in that moment of victory, he made a fatal mistake. He didn't realize that number 128's body had been rigged with antidote containers. The destruction triggered a chain reaction. The antidote spread instantly through the battlefield. The Zombie King froze. Then slowly, began to dissolve. His expression changed not into rage, but something almost human, something like pain. And then he collapsed into a pool of blood. The zombie faction was wiped out. Lu Ruyan, terrified beyond belief, tried to escape, but in her panic, she fell into an ice fissure. Her body was shattered on impact. This time, no one came to save her. Back in the global system, more players were eliminated. Only a handful remained. And then came the final confrontation. Sui Yingrui, now fully controlling the military faction, could no longer wait. He launched an all-out attack toward Future Island. Missiles rained down on the island, destroying everything on the surface. But I remained calm. Because I was never there. From the world chat, I sent him a video call. "You're looking in the wrong place," I said. "Open your eyes." At that exact moment, a nuclear explosion detonated on Future Island. Everything vanished in an instant. Even Kui Yingrui's forces were erased. His name turned gray. The system announced his elimination. But the truth was simple. He never understood where I truly was. The final reward system activated. I was given one final ability, the power to teleport anywhere in existence. And so I used it. Not to fight. Not to survive. But to leave. My body slowly dissolved into light. As I faded away, the system's voice echoed one last time. Player 99. Winner confirmed. Initiating final transfer. E.R. Sand. I leapt forward into the void. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Mom. Dad. I'm home.